Welcome to Night Shift. Jeff Sharon here with you. We got Eric Lopez. We got Kyle Nash. We got Bryson Turner and Nick Porcelli. Busy night for us. How many hours has it been since the game on Saturday? It's been a good one.
You too, Jeff
hours
Sharon?
at least.
Goodness gracious.
Are we past like the quarantine period here?
Man, I just want to know. Man, I've been trying to forget that game like right after the final play.
As I told you, Nick, welcome to being a UCF fan. That's pretty much.
Listen, we've all been baptized by fire in some way similar to this. So you've been initiated, Nick. It's true. So we'll talk about.
I say you can officially know how Mike Norvell felt all those times he lost to the American to UCF.
I mean, speaking of Mike Norvell, I mean, I still remember when we blew that 21-point lead against them, and this is worse.
This is why
it's Memphis. I mean, Memphis in 20. I mean,
this is why Gus is better than Heupel. More on that later.
Right.
Anyways,
we'll get to that. Well, listen, we're not going to spend too much time on the Baylor game. I mean, what more do you want to say?
But
it's like a train wreck. And
we will look forward to the Kansas game. And
Eric Lopez. Hold on, did you hear that shot fired by Eric Lopez? Don't just
listen. I don't listen. When he's firing live ammunition, I don't even.
How can you not have fun with this guy? That's all you can do. It's either cry or have fun with it.
It was a great drop. I just want to make sure everyone heard it.
Thank you.
We're going to talk. Gus Malzahn, by the way, in apparently unrelated news, received a contract extension, or at least he received it a while ago, and everyone just found out about it. We are also going to we're going to preview this upcoming game against Kansas in Lawrence. First time for UCF. First time UCF plays Kansas in football, and that's going to be a tougher game than anyone thinks, especially considering that Kansas just got whacked by Texas last week to kind of end their winning streak to start the season. Volleyball, soccer, and whatever else we've got on tap coming up. But first, let's
call the number 2 ranked team in the country.
Yeah, the number 2 ranked UCF men's soccer team. We got to talk about that.
Can be on site.
The only thing keeping me going right now.
Yeah.
I will definitely.
Hey, that's right, Eric. Broadcasters on site.
I will be on site while you guys handle the pigskin coverage. I will handle the round ball football coverage.
Yeah, we got it. So, but let's talk about. All right, I'm just going to. We're going. Listen to me. Ground rules on this. All right. We're just going to ask this one question about the Baylor game. Okay, because I don't want to trigger everyone's PTSD. Lord knows we've been through this stuff before. All right.
Hey, some of the kids, it's their first one here as a member of the media. Just saying.
Kyle, we will start with you. Okay. Was this a series of unfortunate events that that'll end up in an anomaly, or is this symptomatic of something systemically wrong with this team?
I think it's a symptom, but I don't think it's necessarily something wrong. And let me tell you what I mean more precisely. And this was sort of cited both in night class and the off the cup on the black and gold banner.
Boom, boom. There you go.
Yeah.
Dadgummit, I didn't have the thing right. Go ahead. There.
This is what happens when your defense's anchor is the defensive tackle position. You have large men who are handling business. And listen, nobody on that core of guys that they rotate out, be it Alexander, Walker, Hunter, and now that he's back, Barber, or anybody there playing in the middle, they all rotate. They all, I feel like, have an excellent impact when they're doing what they're doing. I know there was a bit of struggle against Kansas State, but they were in there and handling business against Baylor for a significant period of time. The thing is, when you're on the field doing your thing for 35 and a half minutes of football time, you will tire. I don't care how much Lee Hunter's improved his stamina. The fact they were on the field that long was the biggest problem. And if you got that happening and your linebackers can't do anything more in protection to stop outside plays, that's going to be problematic, period, point blank, end of story. The offense has to convert more third downs, and unfortunately, you're trying to do it with the backup quarterback. That is basically the biggest set of symptoms they're dealing with this particular situation. Long and short, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to let the other team have the ball that much, and by let, I mean hit a bunch of home runs and then basically stop for the second half of the game, you're going to see that happen again. But I don't think that'll be the case. And hey, by the time we play Oklahoma on the road there, you'll see John Rice Plumlee in plays to solve some of those issues.
Total plays running this game, Kyle, 77 for Baylor, 61 for UCF. Eric, what about you? I mean, I know.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Well, listen, Drew wrote about it. Kyle wrote about it. Kyle and I talked about it on the YouTube channel afterwards there, too.
KnightShift, that's right.
But I remember, Kyle, on the field, I asked you, remember when Baylor in that last drive, I'm like, wow, they're going into their 4-minute offense. UCF doesn't have a 4-minute offense. It was a little bit of a boomer bust look, and Drew in his arm.
Is that true, though? That 7.5 minute drive to put us up 35-7 was a pretty good 4-minute drive.
That was the only drive. This was a credit to Drew in his column. You mentioned it in your article, too.
Oh, no, I mean, we said it in Night Shift, too. Yeah.
And we said it on Night Shift. That was the only drive they had in the game that was longer than 4 minutes. Conversely, they had like 8 drives that were 2.5 minutes or less.
Yep.
It's just that was very Josh Heupel-esque type of a performance from that too much boom bust with the boom offensively, which does not help the defense and all that. I do think, though, there are some issues here. Gus mentioned this. He was asked about the mental toughness of this team, and he alluded to it. They were not mentally tough enough in the second half, and I think when you make some of the mistakes that they did, some of that is mental toughness. I think when things go south, this team has not responded well, because it's in these type of games, you're going to have ups and downs. How do you handle that? They didn't handle that very well in that fourth quarter against Baylor. All they needed was one stop. One stop, they win the game.
Yep. Second half possessions, this is offensively for UCF. Had the ball 6 times. The results, touchdown, interception, punt, fumble that got brought back, punt, missed field goal. Baylor in the second half. Ready for this? Field goal, touchdown, field goal.
4 straight scoring drives is the punchline.
Well, don't forget they converted 2 2-point conversions during all that, which is my point. If you just make one play, either on the defensive side or on the offensive side or on the special teams, one play in the fourth quarter, you win this game. That's what stings about it. And nobody did. Nobody stepped up and made that play.
And you're not even mentioning the Shank 19-yard punt.
Right.
Of the missed field goal that would have made the difference earlier, too. I mean,
this was a complete team. We said this.
Everybody
lost.
I could make the argument that the defense has the smallest share of the blame, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, the defense was very much a victim of the circumstances they were given.
I'm not go that far, but
they were put in some bad positions. But I will say, though, Baylor was 10 of 18 on third downs in this game, and correct. I don't know what it was in the second half, but.
Well, and that's something Addison Williams mentioned in the Sunday presser. Credit to him and Darren Hinshaw. They faced the music.
Correct.
They felt that some of the defensive plays were not where they would have liked. Some of the positioning of the play. There was a combination of things, but I think the emphasis is get off the field, and they didn't do.
Weren't aggressive enough to quote Addison more directly. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So here's the deal: no rest for the weary in the Power 5, right, kids?
No, sir.
Right to the game against Kansas. Now, aside from the fact that they are coached by Andrew Glukov's favorite head coach in all of college football, Lance Levin.
Is that why he's not here? He just feels conflict of interest because he's got interest on both sides, or is he still getting over the fact that him and I finally met in person, which was the highlight of the day?
Well, more on this in a second. But the Jayhawks, they got throttled by Texas last week, so they're coming in a little ticked off, especially considering that they started the season 4-0. They got it, and they started the conference season with a win over BYU at home. They also beat Illinois. A little bit of a soft schedule to start, but let's give Texas some credit. They're number 3 in the country right now. Word is from Pete Thamel of ESPN that Jalen Daniels will not play on Saturday. This guy's the preseason
Well, wait,
All
is he not
conference
playing? Or
quarterbacks.
I thought I read where they're going to see about his availability, but he's not going to start.
Well, this is from Thamel. He's listed as officially as doubtful and considered week to week. His expected absence would pave the way for Jason
Back
Bean.
issue. Yeah, back issue.
So
Here's the
so Jason Bean, by the way, 6'3". By the way, this isn't some true freshman. Jason Bean's a senior. So go ahead, Kyle.
I got to cut in here. They were saying the same thing about Will Howard, and he came out doing a minor Byron Leftwich impression. I've been on other podcasts.
Well, the guy for Baylor too.
Chapin. Yeah,
Blake Chapin. Yeah,
right. He decided to come back this week. I've been on other podcasts where I've actually had to do a bit and say, "Are you a Big 12 team whose quarterback is injured? Try playing UCF. Yes, playing UCF.
Whose quarterback is also injured, I might add.
Will miraculously bring your starting quarterback back to health. Side effects include ticking off Orlando fans." That's been a bit I've had to do because of this. Okay.
I mean, it's gonna be a game time. What is Eric? What is the real danger here with this game? Obviously, you're on the road. You're coming off a really painful loss. You're 0-2 in the conference to start out. But what's the real danger? Is it something that Kansas presents, or is it something in-house that UCF has to handle?
Yes. To answer your question, yes. Yes.
I will.
It's yes. I'll start with the Kansas aspect of it. Now, you catch a huge break here in that Daniels is the Big 12 player of the year. He's the best quarterback when he's healthy. That's a huge gift. Whether UCF can take advantage of that or not remains to be seen. Now, Bean, and by the way, am I the only one when I hear Bean, I keep thinking of the old HBO show, Mr. Bean?
Mr. Bean, yeah.
Oh,
Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan's carrying the ball, baby. Here we go.
So Bean has experience. He played the Texas.
Imagine a bit with Rowan Atkinson playing quarterback. Anyway,
I would feel better about our chances if it was him that was playing quarterback.
I'm not. Okay, easy now. All right, go ahead.
But anyway, but Bean obviously had to come in and play the Texas game. Bean apparently Daniels got hurt. His back acted up, I guess, in warm-ups or something. So Bean should have some reps this week practicing. We probably didn't have pre-Texas. This is not the first time Beans had to start in place of Daniels. Last year, they had similar issues as well. So he does have experience. He's very athletic, Bean. But if you're UCF, you catch a break there. But what Lance Leipold, I'm shocked I'm sure Drew would tell you this ad nauseum. They run a lot of different motions and mixed direction stuff. And they're going to
very similar to Gus.
Yeah.
Very similar. And that concerns me when it comes to the UCF linebackers and the trouble they've had. I think Kansas is going to go right after them, regardless of who the quarterback is. By the way, as much as we like the Kansas State running back, some would argue that the Kansas 2 running backs they have are better than Kansas State's running back. So they're going to run the ball too. So, but not having Daniels helps there. But I am curious how UCF responds after such a gut-wrenching loss. A loss that, quite frankly, will stick with them forever. That's not a loss that you just disappear. Yeah, but you can still – that's just a historic loss. I mean, some would argue – I think it's the worst loss ever in program history when you consider the circumstances, the celebration, the happy – the joy and with the occasion.
Certainly anticlimactic.
Sure.
Well, I'll say this.
Worst? We've seen some bad ones in our day.
Oh, we can get into that as a topic. That'd be a fun little topic.
No, I really don't. I really don't. Go ahead.
If everybody's favorite cynical historian, Drew Klokoff, doesn't agree with that, I'm willing to go with him on this one because
he went from a different. I read it's a good art. He went for more of an inexplicable loss. He went with the Syracuse 0-2, which there was a lot of weird stuff that went with it. My whole point is this was your first. You're only going to get one Big 12 home game opener ever, and it was a day of celebration. A lot of people felt happy, and everything. It was a great day outside of the fourth
quarter. A lot of
quarter.
people left the building happy, at least.
Whoa! Shots fired.
This is how you star a fan base, because I have a feeling now Baylor is now very much in contention to be our Big 12 rival now, because now we've had the Fiesta Bowl and now we have this.
Well, this game will be brought up every year now that they play. So, yeah. But I'm curious what how do they come out against Kansas? Is there a hangover from that or not? And then what happens when you get punched in the face? How do they respond? Is it here we go again, or is it no, we're going to overcome that? A lot of that might depend on who's the quarterback at UCF.
Well, we'll get to that in a second too, Eric, and that's a good point. But it's not just the JRP. Now we did see JRP come out fully dressed with a gigantic knee brace on, by the way.
Yeah.
Kyle, is there any possibility of seeing him on Saturday?
So I appreciate how carefully you worded that question because it will dictate my answer. Okay. Do I think they should start John Rice Plumlee? If you ask that, cue up Bishop Bullwinkle. The answer is hail to the now. But is it possible? Surely. I don't see it happening. I don't think there's anything really, even with the Baylor game, that warrants not having McClain out there. Other than that one interception, which was, I feel like that was just as much a bad throw as it was a bad decision. That play doesn't even happen if a play that Gus claims he's been running since 96 doesn't get called for an illegal formation to set up that 3rd and long in the first place.
Yeah, okay.
I say all of the above to say Timmy McClain's looked pretty damn good throwing the ball. And while members of this panel have said something about 50-50 balls that I don't agree with being most of his throws, and I don't want to say who it is because he's not here right now, but, I felt like he had a pretty good game for the most part. Were there 3rd down struggles? Absolutely. There were also a lot of 3rd and longs and a lot of unfortunate penalties and a lot of other unfortunate things that happened. But I still feel confident with Timmy McClain as a starter. And that's basically where I would leave that at the moment,
The one that I'm concerned about, and I saw this on the sideline, Caden Kittler, the center, got hurt.
Yeah.
And he was walking around in a boot in the second half. Bulla Schmidt came in, moved over from guard. And Eric or Kyle, you were probably following like who was coming in and shuffling. I don't know exactly what the shuffle was. I just noticed that.
It was a lot of movement. It was hard for me to follow, but I'll be honest.
But that was, to me, that was a real big one because it looked like there was a lot of trouble with understanding where the pressure was coming from on occasion.
That's not a bad take. I feel like with Schmidt coming in and shifting over to the center spot, that's where you have the fumbled snap happen. That's where that disconnect takes place. And it's that piece that worries me more than necessarily the picking up of the blitzes. At the end of the day, listen, if you send more than anybody has on a particular side at a particular time, you're going to win the day. Mm-hmm. And plays like that fluster backup quarterbacks. It's what happens.
Okay. I'm going to pull up the line here in a second because it's been moving quite a bit. And that's kind of what tipped us off to the whole Jalen Daniels situation, right, Eric? Because
Vegas always knows first.
Man, I don't know how. Well, what did I tell you all those years ago? They didn't build all those casinos in the middle of the desert by losing a whole lot, right?
It's like a TMZ were sports reporters.
Right. So,
TMZ right. Sports is a thing, Bryce.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Grin.
Yeah,
nice, I'm sure.
Yeah, but let's not ignore the fact that TMZ covers that was entertainment. Let's not ignore that. This is like if Adam Schefter worked for TMZ. That's what these Vegas.
Oh, you mean like if he's covering Taylor Swift at every damn Chiefs game?
Oh my god! Oh no, we're not talking about Taylor Swift.
Swifty.
Line started Kansas -4.5. It's now UCF -2. That's a hell of a swing.
That tells you how important Daniels is.
Yeah. I mean, that's massive. And they're thinking under predicted score, but I always love this metric. I don't know how they come up with it, but predicted score 38.3, 24.7 in favor of UCF. So, I mean, make of that what you will, but they haven't said, what percentage of what is on UCF, at least at this point, because the line is that's changed. Kyle, give us the canary in the coal mine on this game as we wrap up getting ready for this. What do we need to watch for? What are you going to be watching for first thing?
Can you get the defense off the damn field? Fair. How about that? Listen, how
you really feel, Kyle?
As much as I give my friend Eric Lopez, the Sultan of Stickball, a hard time on that one, he's 100% correct.
Sultan of Stickball, man, that is beautiful.
That's from the hip, son.
Dangerously close to Sultan of Swing.
But listen, that's the stat, man. It's going to be third down conversions, which, I mean, maybe my time covering the Jaguars is converting me to look at that for UCF as well. I don't know. But listen, that's the big thing there. If you could get off the field, you're going to be fine. You certainly won't be giving up a big swing out of nowhere. I don't think UCF is going to get blown out. For all the criticisms the defense is getting, I really think they can hold their own in this matchup. I'll grant I haven't seen a ton of Jayhawk film, but I don't think their offensive line is anything like their Kansas State counterparts. I think Lee Hunter, Ricky Barber and company is going to do their thing. But yeah, I think that's the big stat I'm watching is third down conversion, period.
What is the over-under? That might be the thing I feel the most comfortable.
64.5.
Ooh.
It's a tricky game because we don't know what UCF's going to do at quarterback. We don't know that. I could see
what going to do at quarterback.
I think we know better than what Kansas is going to do.
I think Plumlee's playing.
Ooh. Okay, why? Tell me why.
Because they have to win this game because they're not going to beat Oklahoma. And if you don't win this game, you're 0-4. And it's free fall. And then, oh, by the way, you got West Virginia, who's playing a lot better than quietly than anybody expected.
Bold?
I would not be surprised if both McClain and Plumlee play. I could see both.
Oh, split?
I don't know about a split, but I could see where, like, if McClain starts, see how it goes. You bring, it just depends.
You're saying what you're saying is if McClain gets off to a rough start and we're down 14-0.
Yep.
They're pulling
JRP comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Otherwise you don't, I don't think you go out of your way to mention he was cleared after the game as quickly as they did.
Yeah, now, I wanted to know about that too, Kyle and Eric, because that was some rather ambiguous language.
So, listen, and credit to Matt Murschel for asking him about it directly. And he mentioned that, listen, everybody knows that when it comes to JRP, Gus has always been a JRP guy, but I think it was just a matter of giving out something positive, such as it was posed with JRP. And honestly, when Gus said it, and this is me speculating, he had that look kind of a look on his face in my mind that was like, I don't know if I should tell you this, but I'll give you that because it's not wrong, but don't take cleared too seriously.
Well, it was almost like he was like, well, the cat was kind of out of the bag when he came out dressed in uniform and warmed up with that, even with that giant knee brace on. So I guess I got to say something about it.
That's why he was in uniform. That's basically what I was explaining. But and I'll say this one last thing to side with Eric. And again, as much as I don't think it should happen, Elo has a point that the stigma in the fan base and probably in that locker room about playing on the road, unfair or not, about how they struggle on the road, it has to be in their head. 6 of the 11 times they're on the road, this, I guess, being 7 of the 12, have been with backup quarterbacks, and all we hear every week is they're not good on the road. No disrespect to a certain panelist that tends to mention that every week.
It's not even that though. If you listen to what Darren Hinshaw it said Sunday about Timmy, it's like, what was it? Don't improv. Don't from the offense, run the offense. Don't ad lib.
Yeah.
And you could hear that from him and Gus, like, don't do too much, which again, and John Rice is their leader. He's a very positive guy. I've been around him. Anybody who's been around him knows that. And when you come off a game like you did against Baylor with that result, a guy like Plumlee can maybe help turn the page. Again, I would not be surprised if both played. Now, again, I think if they beat Baylor, I don't even think this is a question. I think because Brandon Marcello, who followed the team for 247, it was mentioned in that piece that Oklahoma was the target for Plumlee. Well, I think they thought they would beat Baylor and have some cushion here. Maybe I like I said, if he practices, and we don't know because practices are not available to the publicly. If he practices well and is pretty much 100%, he's going to play.
I would push back with this. If your criticism to Timmy McClain is don't improv, then what the hell does JRP do? What are we doing?
Well, no, I think that Eric, I think I know what you're going to say, and that there's a difference between what Timmy is able to do improvisationally, and then what JRP does. improv. It's almost like JRP knows where the bounds are.
Does he?
To that.
Does he? Did or did not the head coach of UCF football say if he ran like that again, I was about to tackle him? Did that was a thing that happened, Jeff?
Fair point.
Yes, but you can argue that the biggest
to quote Audrey from Liar Liar, this feels like it's about to get a violent shove into Sirius.
And by the way, really quickly, Bryson, you can see Coach Malzahn saying that on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel in a short. Bing!
Look, the biggest criticism I will give John Rice Plumlee is that he doesn't protect himself very well, but his decisions to run are a little bit different than I think with Timmy McClain. Like you look at Timmy McClain. Timmy McClain is somebody who I feel like has an inclination to play hero ball a lot. And sometimes that works. Sometimes that works. Like with that one catch that saved the drive. I still don't know how he did that. But you also
it was a pretty remarkable play to keep the game.
It was great.
It really was. No, it really was. It should not have worked, but it did, and I love it for that.
It was a little Johnny Manziel-ish, like oh god, oh my god.
Yes, exactly. I was sitting next to Drew saying, I have no idea how that worked. But in any case, you have that room for amazing plays, but at the same time, you also have the mistakes that come from it. I feel like that John Rice Plumlee has that experience and maturity about him to where he can really run through those mental decisions very fast and very rationally and might make the decision to do exactly what it is and not make it feels like he's flying off the seat of his pants.
That's awesome.
Well, here's the other half of that though too, Kyle. And Kyle, I want to get this. I'm so sorry. You put JRP in there right now. One of his main weapons, his running ability, is going to be severely hampered. Let's be real here, right?
Well, no, yeah, I'm not saying that if you put Timmy like John Rice in that situation right now, because obviously you held him out of the game for a reason. His health comes first. This is just more for the fact that when Timmy McClain is on the field, you kind of expect a certain thing. When John Rice Plumlee is on the field, you expect a little something different, or maybe it's a different flavor.
But here's the unfair advantage that John Rice would have over Timmy there, Bryson. Behind McClain, there's only Rizek. There's more pressure on him to stay healthy.
True.
That's
a
true.
Point.
Real good point. That man hard. That's all I'm gonna say. Like you could feel the energy. Like people were getting really tense with him as the lead got shorter and shorter. And just the more times he would drop back, hold on to the ball, and wait what felt like 10 seconds to throw the ball. People were just getting really intense. So
I'll go back to it again. To me and Nick, you're 100% right on that. I think that the biggest issue is depending on what you want to run and how you want to attack Kansas. Do you need to get the ball out quickly? And if you need to get the ball out quickly, it's Timmy still just has he's one beat too slow.
Yeah.
But
getting the ball out quickly
the offseason. If anything, Plumlee improved on that over the offseason.
Well, they both improved on it. I mean,
they both improved on it, but JRP knows how to get the ball out quick. It's just he always gets it out too quick sometimes.
And that right there is what caused the most incredible revelation for me from this past game. Like, remember last year, it felt like half the fan base was against John Rice Plumlee. People got so mad that I heard people who I knew hate that guy they wanted John Rice Plumlee into the game. That's how bad that loss was.
The fickleness of football.
JRP haters became JRP haters were begging for him to go back into the game.
Well, like I said, he's a guy that could change the conversation if he's healthy. Now, look, I don't think they're going to throw him out there. He's like 20%, 50% healthy, whatever. I'm just saying how practice goes, and we don't know. We're just guessing. This ain't the NFL.
True.
My feelings on it. I personally think every school should be mandatory, should be forced to give you a designation on Fridays or Thursdays before games like the NFL does. So we don't know. We're going blind on this. But if he practices well and if he's healthy, he's gonna be involved. I think. This is true because here's the thing. You have to find a way to win this game going into the bye because then you got Oklahoma after that. That may not be pretty at all. Then you got West Virginia who's playing a lot.
Think about Oklahoma. They haven't played anybody. And then they're about
to play somebody this week in Texas.
Are we somebody, Kyle?
We're more than who they've played. Check the schedule, Eric Lopez.
I don't know if I agree with that. We're gonna find out this Saturday against Texas.
Look, I don't know if
target is 6 wins. We thought Baylor was going to be one of those 6. Now they're not.
Oh, not at the beginning of the season. We certainly did not.
Hold on. Nick, what were you going to say?
All I said was like to Kyle, like saying like we're not who they think they are. Can we really say that after that loss?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think so. I still don't think that we know exactly what this team is.
Remember,
that's why I'm so interested in this Kansas game, because I want to see how does this, like as Elo keeps saying, how does this loss affect us? Like, is this going to like stay on them? Like, can they respond from this?
And that's a great question.
More specifically, like you might come out ready to go, but what happens when you get that punch in the face?
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, really quick, guys. You quoted me on that, Nick, and it was fine that you did that. It was a great thing. I agree with you and what you were saying. I'm also on record saying we didn't know what Baylor was because they didn't really play anybody. They played Utah within a touchdown, and they were on their backup quarterback. And guess who comes back? Try playing UCF. You see what I'm saying?
Not to mention the fact that, and I think this is an underrated part about that. And what did I tell you on last week's show too, Kyle? Beware the desperate team with a defensive coach.
Nobody was saying that. Nobody was saying that when it was 35-7.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, like that's the other thing. It's just like
we're desperate. That matters.
Yeah, doesn't matter. You make a play, you win the game. You're right. This was on you. This is
a bad play. You win the game. It's not even
fair. No, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. No, that's a great point. It's a great point.
I mean, well, not to rehash us, but the fumble was a 10-point swing.
Yeah. He doesn't even like. They don't even need to get the first down.
All down on the ball. Why don't?
Like if they field goal, they probably get the win still.
Yeah,
or
but
at least
anyway,
think of the block.
You were mentioning, but you were mentioning Oklahoma. They haven't played anyone with better than a 3-2 record. Those 3 teams that are 3-2 on the year are Tulsa, SMU, and Arkansas State. So,
I would argue SMU is just as good as UCF right now.
I would not go that.
We can say the same thing though after they play Texas.
But I do want but nonetheless, 4:00 kick. Here's the big news for this, and Eric, this is your wheelhouse now. TV.
Yeah.
UCF's you got the column up on the website right now, blackandgoldbanneret.com. 4 p.m. kick Saturday, Big Fox. First time ever for UCF. Right.
The same station that carries the Simpsons, baby. We're big, right? That's the Fox.
We are 0-0 all time on Fox. So
big Jason Benetti, Brock Hewitt, Allison Williams will have the call. They will be on site.
Jason Benetti.
I have some bad stats. Yeah, I have some bad stats. Benetti, we have a losing record with Benetti calling. Anyway, I'm just saying.
We've been previous set of circumstances.
Yeah,
we've been asking for people to be in the stadium calling the game. We finally got it. Let's just be happy with that. All right.
I am happy about that.
Yeah, they put out all the stops for Big Fox.
No, listen. This is very important because if you look at the future where the Big 12's headed, this is going to be one of their prime slots moving forward. You look at where because you look at next year, the SEC is going to be all on ESPN and ABC. That 3:30 slot in ABC is probably going to be the SEC. You look at CBS next year. That's where they're going to carry the Big 10 at 3:30 when Fox carries it at noon. All indications are that Fox will get those picks for that 4:00 slot on Fox. So this is a slot that is going to be one of the more attractive slots. I expect this game to go over 1 million viewers just because it's an easy channel to find. If it's a good game, great. But yeah, I think this is an important slot. This is by far their best TV slot they've had all year. Might be the best TV slot they get all year, depending on what happens with Oklahoma and Texas. If Kyle thinks Oklahoma's a fraud, then we might be back on FS1. I don't believe that. I actually think Oklahoma's
I didn't go that far. I just said they haven't played anybody. I said they're
nobody plays anybody in college football. You know that. So I think this is a big slot, and I think it's a big opportunity. I think I did a prediction in the article. People can send in their comments. I put in my prediction, what I think the TV viewership number will be for OU Kansas. I think we wrote, what was it, like 1.23 million?
1.256.
There you go, 1.256. Do you guys want to go over? Got to be.
I believe.
Over, under, boys. You going over, under that?
Ooh.
I'm going to go under.
I'm going to go a shade under.
Yeah, I'm going to say under, but barely.
You guys, I'll be a contrarian and I'll say over.
Well, look at this optimist.
I'll say it by
what's the competition, Eric, in that slot?
Alabama, Texas A&M is on CBS. That'll probably win that slot.
Yeah.
Florida State, Virginia Tech is the ABC game.
Yeah.
Hardly a world beater, that.
Right.
But they're a top 5 ranked team, which does draw viewers rankings. Oklahoma State, by the way, played in the I forgot who they played last year in the same time slot as Fox. Did about a 1.6 million, 1.6.
Okay. I either way, I want to know what you think about the fact that the game starts at 4 and not 3:30.
I think it's smart. Yeah, because college football games go long. So Fox has the big noon. That's their big game they always promote. Game goes 3.5, 3:45. You're not missing anything at 4 o'clock. Where if you put it at 3:30, you're probably missing the first handful of minutes.
Does that also help out on the back end of that though too? Like around 7:38, you're in prime time. If it's a good game, it's tight. People are going to tune in for the end of that, and you're going to.
I think that's what they're selling you. And then it avoids of the debacle of what happened on this past Saturday, where we had a NASCAR truck race.
Oh my God!
Womp womp.
Oh my God!
Go to overtime. I'm not making this up. And so majority of the country missed the beginning.
Can we just declare the truck race a tie? Really?
I have no say.
You can do that.
I would have been in favor of that.
So you do avoid that with a 4-hour window. It is interesting. They do it a little different. I think you're right. Part of that is to kind of swing into that 8 o'clock window. It's an interesting slot. So I'm very intrigued to see how this game does. I think they probably wish Kansas would have probably been ranked, but you can't expect them to beat Texas. They probably wish UCF would have held on against Baylor, but it is what it is. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what this game does from a viewership standpoint. I think it'll be a good broadcast. It'll be on sites. That's a good thing, and hopefully
restaurant quality.
Yeah, it's a good restaurant quality. Hopefully it's a good game. I do think it'll be. I've been told there's not a lot of UCF fans making this trip because a lot of them made the trip to Manhattan. So you're not doing 2 Kansas trips. So I do think more people will probably be home watching the game, which I think will help the viewership.
And they're also saving their pocketbooks to go. They want to get their socks rocked off by going to Norman, Oklahoma.
Well, I was going to say that's the other big road game that I think a lot of people are going to.
We should find out Monday the time and network for that game. I'm really interested to see what slot and time that game gets because I've been on record. I think that'll be the most watched UCF game of the regular season.
I thought I agreed with you with that.
Especially if Oklahoma
and if they beat Texas.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is why the OU Texas game is big. If they were to beat Texas, they'll probably easily crack into the top 10, if not higher.
100%.
And I think, and I will say this, if that happens, do not be surprised if Oklahoma UCF becomes an ABC or Fox option. So whereas if there's
with the Dylan Gabriel thing is a part of that, right?
There.
Yeah.
Well, you would have an undefeated Oklahoma team on the rise again. Now they become the number 1 pick for a lot of the TV networks. They're in the playoff picture. You have the Gabriel little side story. I think that all of a sudden becomes a possible ESPN, Fox, 3:30, 4 o'clock option.
Has UCF been on ABC since the pandemic, Eric Lopez?
Oh, yeah. When are you counting 2020 season into that? Because
that's what I mean. What is the pandemic? So after
they were in 2020, they were not last year.
Yeah,
and I don't think they were in 21. I don't think they were. No, yes, they were. Weren't they when they got trounced by Cincinnati at Cincinnati?
That was on ABC. I don't remember that. Okay.
Hold on.
I think when Cincinnati was undefeated, I think that was ABC.
Let's see,
2021.
2 games in 20. You mean? Are you talking, Kyle? Are you talking non-postseason game?
Yes, non-postseason, correct.
2021 against Cincinnati. That was on ABC. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
So that was.
I nailed it. So that's something to watch if you guys watch the Oklahoma Texas game. If Texas wins, then maybe Oklahoma UCF becomes. I mean, it could still become ESPN. I mean, we have not been on ESPN at all this year, except for the ESPN Plus game.
I know. I wonder
It's weird, isn't it? It's really weird.
It's very weird.
On ESPN affiliate stuff for so many years, and now all of a sudden we're on Fox stuff.
Maybe they're still intimidated by trying to spell UCF instead of writing UFC. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of theories I've heard about that. I've heard that ESPN already has Florida State, Miami, Florida, so they're not aggressively going after UCF in the pick selections. Some have said, well, the schedule kind of dictates what it is. Like I've said this, after Oklahoma, that rest of that schedule is not appealing for television. Like I think you're going to see a lot of noon. We're still going to get a noon game at some point at home here. I think either West Virginia or Oak State will be a noon game.
I'm calling Oklahoma State.
That feels like a noon game, doesn't it? Yeah,
probably.
And I think I could see an ESPN Plus game or two with either Cincinnati game or the Houston game. So
certainly Houston.
All right.
Yeah.
So 4:00 kick on Fox, locally Fox 35, Fox Network, not FS1, not FS2, not Fox Business, Fox, Big Fox. All right. Some other breaking news that dropped earlier today. Come on. There you go. Pete Thamel of ESPN reports that UCF and head coach Gus Malzahn agreed to a contract extension through the 2027 season. The terms were agreed to earlier this summer. Nobody found out about it until Pete dropped it. And the school raised the salary to $4 million a year on July the 1st. The deal goes up to $5.5 million annually in 2026 and the final year 2027. Thamel goes on to say the raise and extension are part of UCF's transition plan to the Big 12. New deal puts him more in line with the other coaches in the Big 12, as he would have entered UCF's first in the Big 12 as the lowest paid Power 5 coach without the adjustment. Now, just a reminder for everybody, Gus is still getting paid by Auburn. A lot of money too, by the way.
He's doing great,
but he won't be getting that forever. And Eric, I want to bring you in on this because you know more about college coaching contracts than anyone I know. First of all, props to UCF for keeping this under wraps. I think that they wouldn't have wanted this to drop this week anyway on the heels of how the Baylor game. I wonder if the Baylor game was a win, they would have dropped, the fanfare, Gus got an extension. But what does this mean really for Gus and for the program? In terms of the long term, this is the long-term commitment that they were looking for, right? One full recruiting cycle, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And he's not the lowest paid Power 5 coach anymore. What is this really an indication of? Because, the last two head coaches that we had prior to Gus, it would have been like, oh my gosh, we better throw money at this guy before we lose him to some other school. But, now it's a little bit of a different calculation now that you're in that Power 5 and you're in the league and you're in that league of schools, right, Eric?
Yeah. A lot of this is for recruiting purposes. Like, there is a part of me that wonders, like, I really am interested by the timing of when was the plan to announce this? Why not just do this in the off season? And a part of me wonders if this is all recruiting related, because you're in you get into closer to recruiting season, closer to signing day. Just a friendly reminder, I'm going to be here long term. Because a lot of times that's why contract extensions really get announced. It's really for recruits to say, because you know how this game works in recruiting. It's like all the people will start rumors. Hey, you're leaving. I've heard this guy's leaving, this to that. So you kind of end that by announcing, hey, I'm extended. It's out there in the public. So I think, I don't know about this week. Something tells me I think they would have probably wanted to do it next week during the bye, but maybe that's just me. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I'm not surprised. I remember there was talk about this during the offseason.
Right.
So I think it was only a matter of time. And I don't think anybody is surprised. I think the timing was maybe a little bizarre because of what has transpired. But I think, yes, obviously this was done in a while. And I think it's all for recruits, really.
Kyle, what do you think?
You call it bizarre. I call it perfect. First of all, it was for recruits, Eric Lopez. But listen, if they release it a week early to take some of the heat off of the debacle that took place on social media involving Javon Baker and the whole back and forth with the fans, to then turn whatever possible criticism and spotlight onto the coaches instead of the players. If that's a thing they did, and I'm not saying it was, but if that's a thing they did, I'm for it. coaches should want to take the criticism ahead of their players, especially when it's something as historic as this. When a
Gus does, by the way, in Gus' defense, he does. He takes it, right? Let's not. He's not like the old guy over here from that I used to be. These players have to be better.
Oh my goodness!
Awesome.
Oh my God.
I don't know who this coach is, Eric Lopez.
I have a statue. I was on the field.
You seem very leery about how he handles.
Okay.
All right.
Shut me up, Jeff. It's not my fault.
Really did set you up well there.
Yeah, I know people are probably going to be mad about the timing of this announcement where it's like, hey, you just blew the biggest lead in school history. Here's a pay raise. But this was agreed to back over the summer. When you put yourself in the headspace of UCF over the summer, Gus was coming off of one of the best recruiting classes this program has ever seen.
Again.
That's why you do extensions. If anything, Gus, I think, is his biggest thing that he has been able to do while he's here is in this CEO role. He is allowed to be the much more interactive with recruits, and I think that's the biggest thing that this program really needs is they need to get up at the Power 5 level in terms of recruiting, and they've been doing that so far, but now you got to sustain it. And Gus's extension helps him do that.
Doing it so far, which he has been doing, by the way, Bryson, one of the top in the conference, according to 24/7. And I might also add, Eric Lopez, I've said this with you on Night Shift more than once, and Bryson, you might have heard it too. Listen, I want a dude, if you're going to hire a coach who's when you ask him about his coaching tree and all its branches, he says, well, it means I'm old, which is a thing that happened when I asked him about it last year. Okay. And yet still Deion Sanders is copying stuff he does. Yeah, you want to hold on to him.
Listen, I think that the need for stability, this is one thing that I was talking with somebody earlier today about. Guys, this is a different March than when we were in the MAC and when we were in Conference USA and we were in the American, right? This is not going to be a microwave dynasty. Okay, we were competing for a conference title in the first year of each of those conferences. And before you say, well, what about the MAC? We were 5 points from winning the division that year in 2003.
Correct.
In first year in Conference USA, we hosted the championship game and had the lead at halftime. First year in American, go 12-1, 2013. We all know what happened there. This is a much different thing. This is going to be a grind to try and get to the top of this league.
No, there's no guarantee.
And there's no guarantee that you will. So you know what?
History,
One full recruiting cycle, that's 5 years. So before anyone thinks that it's going to happen overnight, it's not.
The only thing
you better solidify your recruiting right there, like you were saying, Eric.
But he wasn't going anywhere, though. So I don't think there was any. This is not a Scott Frost. Oh my God, he's the hottest coach go, and he's leaving. I don't think he was leaving either. I think this was you're just shutting down false rumors. To Kyle's point, you kind of clear it up because look, they had a lot of recruits this weekend. This was a big weekend from big time. Some of those recruits, I would know. I was on the field. I saw them. They're big. So
a bunch of large humans on the side.
Yeah, which is why I would suggest to certain former alums shut the bleep up about criticizing fans leaving early. Okay, shut the bleep up. Anyway, because it's
Eric Lopez.
You think?
How do you really feel, man?
Can we not that's not a great idea to be criticizing the atmosphere or anything of the stadium when you have recruits in the building. Thank you.
All right.
But yeah, no, he's going to be here a while. And I will point out,
this is TED Talk.
He'll be here all week.
I will point this out for those that are freaking out because, wait a minute, you just blew a 28-point lead. Jimmy Johnson at Miami, 1984. If you look it up, because Bryson wasn't born, or Nick, blew one of the biggest leads in college football history against Frank Wright and Maryland. Correct?
Maryland, yeah.
Right, Jeff, you know this?
Yep. By the way, that was 1 week before Doug Flutie showed up.
Correct. So things worked out for Jimmy in the long run with Miami, right? Worked out well. So
I would say so.
Hey, by the way, Eric Lopez in that same ilk, Nick Saban. You remember what his first loss was at Alabama?
Monroe.
Monroe. Very good. Well done, gentlemen. You was
It
wrong.
happens. Yeah,
Marilyn Monroe? What?
I see what you did there, Jeff Lopez. Jeff Sharon.
Wow.
Wow.
What happened there? What just happened?
We talk about you guys arguing like a married couple. It just got in my head. That's all.
I think the show just broke.
There's always one. There's always one moment.
Always one. All right. Well, congratulations to Gus. I'm glad he's going to be, here for at least the time being. It's something that you're right. The only thing that is weird about this is that the timing was awkward, but
that's Kyle's fault. He kept it to himself. He could have broken the story. Kyle, come on, Kyle.
Well, listen, Gus said it was going to come out on the bye week, and then this Thanel character got involved. All right, that's not my fault.
For Pete's sake.
Amel. Come on.
That's the joke.
Anyway. So let's move us. Let's get out of here and talk about some other things. So we have to listen. I said we said it on the Facebook page, folks. If you aren't paying attention to UCF men's soccer right now, you're just not. You turn in the fan card.
Oh, you're not the real fan guy that posted that?
I'm going to be now. 5-1-2, number 2 in the country. They've moved up, ladies and gentlemen. 1-0 win at Kentucky. That's a big win. I know Kentucky's been struggling, but that's a big dub, especially coming off of the 1-0 loss at number 1 Marshall. In the Sun Belt, it's UCF and Marshall right now. Eric Lopez, I want to come to you on this, and then I want to go to Bryson. That was a key win. That I thought because, like I said, you could easily get beat by Marshall twice, but to go in there against Kentucky, take care of business in Lexington, that tells me this isn't fool's gold now. This team's for real, and they're mentally tough to come away from that, especially how they lost the game at Marshall on that late call, which was the right call, but still beating Kentucky. I'm in on this team now.
Road.
On the road, yeah. I mean, not that I wasn't in before, but I'm all in now. I think we all are now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we were all kind of like cautious, and now we're like, oh, this is legit. Let's go. Now is when you really got to be hyped.
So they have Georgia Southern coming up next. Eric Lopez, I want to get you in on this as well. This is sort of like the soft part in the schedule, but you can't get too complacent here, right?
No, I mean, Georgia Southern's kind of a unique team. They don't give up goals. They have only given up 9 goals this season. They've only scored 6, but they drew West Virginia scoreless. Every match they've lost has only been by 1 goal, except for the Marshall match, which was a 2-goal deficit. I'm curious to see how UCF comes out. You've had this emotional match with Kentucky. Kentucky had 2 disallowed goals. You had the Marshall match before that, West Virginia before that. How do you, and I will ask Coach Calabrese when I get to talk to him, how do you avoid this letdown, this we could take a deep breath now and have a bad result against a Georgia Southern team that can defend pretty well. I'm really interested to see.
Well, the thing is, GSU does not score goals.
They're don't, but
less than a goal.
Listen, you don't want to get caught taking a nap where it's like 55, 60 minutes in and it's a scoreless game. Next thing you know, they got a cheap goal and now you're chasing because, that's what happens. And I'm really curious to see how this UCF team comes out after playing Kentucky, who is the preseason favorite in the league, after Marshall, both on the road, who's the number 1 ranked team in the country. And then you had a home game against West Virginia. We see this in a lot of sports. Kyle, you know this in the NFL. There's always that game where does this team come out flat? They we can relax. We're at home type of thing. We see this in the NBA a lot of times when NBA teams come back from a lengthy road trip. I'm curious how they come out against this Georgia Southern team that's got a first-year coach. Because if you're UCF, you're number 2 in the country, number 2 in the RPI. Everything's in front of you. Everything's in front of you.
Bryson, when I'm looking at the schedule, the next 4 teams, let me check this. The next 4 teams have RPI rankings in the 100s, and the 5th team, Georgia State's at number 95. So what's going to be the hard part right here for UCF? Is it what Eric was talking about, like don't get complacent, or is it something else that you're kind of worried about right now?
I think it's definitely don't be complacent. The schedule, the way the schedule ended up, we talked about how I love the volleyball schedule and how all of the really tough matches were backloaded so you could prepare for that. Here, though, all of the tough conference matches came right away. You started your Sun Belt era here against West Virginia, who's right now the number 3 team in the country, 9 in the RPI. Then you go to Marshall, who's number 1 in both both coaches poll and RPI. And then after that, you all of a sudden have everything below that is like 87, 95, 100 and below. The very thing that killed UCF last season was winning big games, but then losing games they shouldn't have against FAU and UAB. Basically, if you lose any of these games, it's FAU and UAB all over again, and then you leave that room in for doubt to come in. You have your reputation. You have to be able to keep it the rest of the year. Is it hard? Yes, because there's a lot more expectations on you, but that's the expectations that you get when all of a sudden the words College Cup start entering the picture.
Visions of College Cup dancing in their heads.
Hey, I mean,
highest ranked team in the school history by any team.
That's right.
UCF.
Right.
Hey,
do we see any possibility that Marshall could stumble and UCF could get to number 1?
there's always that possibility.
Well, is Marshall Bryson? I'll defer. I think Marshall hasn't played West Virginia yet.
No, that's right. And they play West Virginia in Morgantown.
What's weird about the Sun Belt? We've talked so much about, is this going to be the SEC of men's soccer? It's actually become the Big Ten. It looks like the Big Ten in that, Big Ten football, you have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and then it drops off. You look at the Sun Belt.
Rutgers.
Right. Sun Belt, you've got Marshall, UCF, West Virginia. Like, Kentucky's been a disappointment. James Madison, who was a top 10 team like a few weeks ago, has fallen off the cliff as well. It's weird. It's a weird league. It's a new league, so we're still learning it. But it is weird. And to Bryson's a great point. The men's soccer schedule is very soft now, backloaded, which means don't be shocked even if this team wins out, they're going to drop a couple spots in the RPI. It's a weird schedule. It's complete opposite from that standpoint. So I'm really interested to see how they handle that. But hey, look, they're going to be happy to be home Saturday night. Hopefully there's a good crowd. Listen, the football game's at 4, should be done by 7-ish. You could flip over to soccer. So hopefully people do that. But we'll see.
Hey, I think there's going to be a big crowd. I really believe that.
That's it. The biggest thing about this Kentucky win for me is that you finally have that first conference win off your back, because coming off of Marshall and West Virginia, look, you getting a win against either of those teams would have been jubilation. But if you got a draw or a loss, it's fine. There are top 10 teams in the country. It's okay. But now that part is done, now you have to win. And they got that monkey off their back now against Kentucky, and now they just have to keep going because I feel like that the rest of this, I feel like I'm watching a Tom and Jerry cartoon where Tom has laid out all these mouse traps and he's waiting for Jerry. We're Jerry in this picture. Where now
this is one hell of a metaphor, and I'm all for it.
Wow, and it wasn't Kyle either that said it. That's the wild thing.
Hey, thank you to Boomerang for airing.
Excellent job.
Boomerang.
So
excellent.
What have you done, Kyle? What have you done to this boy?
The point is you have to
avoid to watch as a kid, man.
The point is you have to avoid the mouse traps for the rest of the way until you get to the conference tournament where you can get another crack at West Virginia and Marshall.
Yeah,
that tournament is going to be awesome. By the way, I can't.
Juan Munoz was the defensive player of the week in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he has really stepped it up, man. I'll tell you. Yeah, I thought that he's really been. It would have been really tough for us to, after Yannick Ertl. Those are some big shoes to fill. And you know what? Wanvi has settled in really well. He just deserves a ton of credit. So big ups to Wanvi Munoz.
Bravo to him, man.
Yeah. I want to go over to the women's side now. All right, here's to me the most intriguing team that we have going on right now, because
what are they?
They are 8-4, and they've climbed up. Now they're coming off of the loss against Texas earlier today. This is in the spacing. Now that was a bit of a letdown, 3-1 loss against Texas, and it kind of stopped this. They've now lost 2 of their last 3. The only win in between was against Oklahoma. The Oklahoma win was a pretty big one, but they're right now, I think, at a real crossroads. They have Baylor at home on October the 8th, Texas Tech on the 12th, before they go up to Cincinnati and then at BYU. So 4 games to go, 2 at home, 2 on the road. They're in a really tenuous spot right here. And Bryson, I want to go to you on this, because what's the feeling right now with this team? Where are we thinking right now that they are in terms of, is the season setting up for them? Because they got hot and now they're cooling off just a little bit. I feel like they really could have used this Texas game tonight and they didn't get it.
Well, they're banged up. That's the only thing you can really say. We talked about this, I think, last week or the week before that. Women's soccer plays 2 times a week, while men's soccer only plays once a week. That's just the difference between the Sun Belt and men's soccer and the Big 12 in women's soccer. And because the women are playing more often, there's more chances for them to get banged up, and that's what happened to them now. Ellie Moreno, the leading goal scorer for this team, Tiffany Roberts-Zahadak, said in post-game of the Texas match that she is out for the season.
Oh no!
Big blow.
She is out. You can watch it now on the Black and Gold Banner YouTube channel. I uploaded it right around the start of the show.
No bell for that.
She is out,
and that's it. Her career's done, right?
Unless she gets a red shirt.
She's past the red shirt.
I think
deadline,
she's past the red shirt. Right? Okay, then yeah, I think that she's done. So losing her, she even said losing her energy. You know, the fact that Maggie Jenkins scored her first career goal when she did, the fact Coach Zahadak praised Maggie for really stepping up when with Ellie now gone. That means that now Mo O'Connor, who was injured in the pregame, she was a transfer from Ole Miss. She was hurt. She's hurt. And then now Ellie, who was a leading goal.
Yeah, Mo O'Connor hasn't even played this year, right?
No, she has not. She was a forward. She was a transfer forward from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
She played it. She scored a goal on us, I think, last year or something like that. But she's gone, and she has not played all season, and who knows what her injury is. And now Ellie Moreno has a season-ending injury of her own, and we already were thinking about who is going to score goals when Kristen Scott is not in the picture anymore, and now you just lost the person that was leading the team in goal scoring in her absence. Not to mention, you have a back line who Coach Tip has said early on in the season or beforehand, losing Georgie Eaton Collins was a huge deal for them too. So
depth is an issue.
This sort of depth is once again an issue for this team. Last season, they handled it. This season, unfortunately, the way that the offseason just worked out for them, they just got a really bad hand. And going into a conference like the Big 12, Oklahoma State, by the way, the team they lost to before, 44th in RPI right now. Texas, 71. Now they play Baylor, who is 83. This is another top 100 thing. And the thing is all these wins that UCF was getting beforehand, all of those teams are outside the top 100 of the RPI.
They don't have the marquee win right now in the resume. And Texas was a bad matchup. Texas has some of the most gifted players in the country. They got Byers. Byers might be on the U.S. national team at some point.
Don't forget about Lexi Misamo.
Misamo as well. I mean, they're stacked. They average over 3. Yeah, they're a stacked offense, and they just pounded UCF all match. I think they had over 20 shots, I want to say, overall. Not on target, but they put the pressure on them, let UCF play kind of on their heels a little bit.
26.
You mentioned that. You mentioned the Baylor. Now, it's good news and bad news. This is the good news of the Big 12. It's also the bad news of the Big 12 is they got Texas Tech, who's a top 10 team at home next weekend, which, believe it or not,
unbeaten Texas Tech. They're number 8 in the RPI, and that's senior day, too.
Last home match. I'll believe it.
Yeah, it is.
And they finished the regular season at BYU, who was number 1 for a while, and they're in the top 10. So what I'm saying is if you can get a result in those, that's going to help your resume. The bad news is those are tough matches. For them. Otherwise, they're going to have to do some damage in the conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament. Today was a big loss. That was a tough loss against Texas. I knew Moreno was out because they referenced that on the broadcast. I did not know what Bryson broke there. That's breaking news. And you feel for the Ellie. She's a good kid, and she was having that career year. And that's always a bummer when there's nothing worse for an athlete when your season, career, etc. ends not on your terms.
If you watch back on the Black and Gold Banner YouTube channel, she's done some post games with Dayana Martin, another one of the forwards, and the chemistry between them is like that. And so the fact that Day doesn't have her on the field anymore Dayana Martin, of course, is right behind
Right, because teams are now going to swarm on Diana. I mean, I would argue that Moreno was your MVP.
Right there, 3 goals. Chloe Netzel's right there. It's just this team needs to have a dominant goal scorer. I think, and right now they lost a very key offensive weapon. And
well, I will say this:
you need as many as you can get.
I'll say this, and this is one of the things each team has to in the Big 12. When you're in you're going to find out what you need, right? Like football, Kyle. What would you say, Kyle? Football, real quick, based on UCF's 2 Big 12 games. What's the most noticeable thing that UCF has to upgrade on the roster in the Big 12? Is it line? Is it the line? What is it? What give me the line play. I think with women's soccer,
linebackers in particular.
There you go.
Linebackers, yeah.
Linebackers too. That's a good one. I think with women's soccer, guys, you saw the gifted goal scorers Texas has. They have multiple players that can take over a match. That's where I think UCF has to upgrade, I think, is the goal scoring and the athletes that could, instead of, hey, we're dependent on a Kristen Scott to carry the load or so-and-so and so-and-so, that athletic kind of deal like you saw from a Texas today. You're probably going to see from Texas Tech and BYU, especially Tech. That's where I think Coach Sahadak, I think they'll address that of either the portal or the athletes is we got to get more athletic goal score offensively and take some of the pressure off the defense, Bryson. Take some of the pressure.
Yeah. And you have to wonder, actually, if you got to wonder if that was even Tiffany Robert Sahadak's plan over the offseason when she got Mo O'Connor from the transfer.
Fair. Absolutely. Fair point. Yeah. That's a fair point.
I know. Well, by the time we record this show next week, it's the end of the home season because they're playing 6:00 on Thursday.
I will end this on a positive for them. The Texas match was their first regular season linear broadcast ever. It was on ESPNU. And you, Bryson, you told me, according to UCF, it was their first linear broadcast since 2017 AAC championship game?
Yeah.
Which was on ESPN News.
Yes. And this was ESPNU.
So that was a positive. And get this, Kyle and Jeff. It's crazy. I know this is a crazy idea. ESPNU, they brought broadcasters on site.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. You believe that? You believe that?
Oh man, yeah. One of my classmates who works at the games was in the press box with him, and he told me how he was sitting next to Ian Carey, and he was a nice dude. I mean,
so just stating the record, ESPN brought broadcasters for a women's soccer match on ESPNU. Whereas Fox doesn't bring football.
But Eric, I heard from a bunch of people on Twitter that ESPN hated UCF
or hates everybody. I don't know.
It's on Twitter, so you know it's right.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore. All right. Last bit that we want to talk about is volleyball, and they go up to and listen. We were talking about it with the schedule as it was right now. And let's give this UCF volleyball team a ton of credit. Tough road trip that they had out to Texas Tech. And they come out of there with a sweep in Lubbock yesterday.
They're doing what they need to do, man.
They did what they needed to do, Nick and Bryson. So far, 5-0 in the conference. Now, like we were talking about, the last week, this coming week is going to be the acid test. The 11th against West Virginia at home, the 14th against Kansas State. You want to get those 2 wins under your belt because then, like Bryson, you were hinting at earlier, the gauntlet starts with the 2 matches at Baylor on the 21st and the 22nd. So, what did we see from the Texas Tech match? Bryson, on the road that impressed you and got you at least said, hey, this team's in position to at least get something done in the second half of the conference schedule?
Well, for one thing, they really came out swinging. I mean, they just absolutely destroyed the Red Raiders in that first set, and that's definitely something you really need to build momentum. I think. And I'm really glad that they did this at this point in this little lead up to the gauntlet as well, because you look at the set at the second and third set and you saw that Texas Tech was able to come back and kind of get back in the game in those ones. So now if you're head coach Jenny Maurer, you're like, okay, we got the started off, fast part. Now it's about keep that sustained, keep it going. Emily Wilson, great job, a great job killing on there. Chloe Shear, Abby Hansen, 5 block assists, great job out of her. And by the way, looking at, I looked through the stats and I looked through the stats, NCAA statistics, where they kind of recap the teams' like place in the country. Jeff, Sharon, they are number 1 in the country in aces per set. The serving game that this Knights team has been doing is absolutely been amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? UCF is actually they've always been, especially the last 5 to 6 seasons, Bryson. They've always been a very good serving team, but on a fundamentally sound level. The ace thing right now is like is coming out of left field, like because we were a good placement serving team, but we didn't really get a lot of aces here. What's been the difference in that?
Honestly, I think it's honestly about, like, I've talked to the team about how they work on their serves a lot. Claudia Dillon, she really prides herself on her serve, and Claudia, I would argue, is really one of the kind of the leaders on this team as far as serving. Emily Wilson as well. Emily Wilson, 36 aces from Emily Wilson, 26 from Claudia Dillon, 24 from Ava Armour, Chloe Shear with 20. I mean, you have like 5 players now with 20 aces or more on this team. I feel like that this team is very together, and thus I think that it's infectious. I also think the talent, though, is also really there. Ava Armour, I mean, for a true freshman, the talent that she has shown this season, like, I think that Ava Armour is definitely going to be somebody to watch over the course of the next few years. And yeah, the total aces, by the way, 149. That's the total amount of aces.
Well, no, that's Jenny too, Pete. Emphasis on the serve, and Michaela Franklin, the new assistant. They both run the offense there. There has been an emphasis to be more aggressive on the serve, get more free points, helps you set up your defense, etc. So that's been a big combination. I just want to say, Abby Shomers, we have to, I think she's Jenny Frank reincarnated for Jeffrey.
She's really stepped in. So listen, those are some big shoes to fill with Amber Olsen, that she came in and she's filled really well.
She's more athletic than Amber Olsen. She is very Jenny Frank-esque.
Yeah, I mean, she's not as tall as Amber was, but you're right. She has that. She has a little bit, just slightly more. It's not saying Amber wasn't athletic, but Abby does have a little bit more athleticism in her game right now, and it's worked so far. I mean, you could tell she's coming well prepared. And by the way, shout out to both the Olsen sisters who brought her along the last couple of years and prepared her well for this moment.
She really has. We talked to her in post game. She talked about what it was like working under Amber in that last year. We said this coming in the beginning of the season, like the offense is going to be where this team is going. We were a little uncertain about, because now you have Emily Wilson, Abby Shomers, Lauren Clark, Ava Armour. Those 4. Emily Wilson was the only known quantity of those 4, and even then she didn't play as much last year. So to see the just off the gate how well those 4 have been doing this season, I think that it's definitely, UCF definitely deserves to be as high in the RPI as they are, despite the schedule being as kind of soft as it has been. But at the same time, it showcases competence, and that's what I really wanted to see from this UCF team over the course of this like soft portion of the schedule, was competence. Now that we have, they've
gotten confident too. They've been able to grow. I mean, again, the thing about, we always scrutinize schedules, and what I always drives me nuts about it is, what does the team look like? This is a young group that had to be developed, and you can't just throw them up through the wolves. Okay, maybe a veteran team you can, but this was a young team that's growing each day, and that's been the message from Coach Maurer and above. And that's why they're building confident for each point they have. You look at the future of this. To me, the pieces are there now. Shomers at center, Wilson outside, as well as Ava Armour. And then you got other pieces coming.
You did get Brett Carlson and Anika Sokol sometime in recent matches. And by the way, Anika Sokol, 14 sets played the whole season, and she has 4 aces already in those.
They're trying to get her some reps, get her ready for next year to make
contagious,
right? And so Look, I mean, as we were recording, I watched Florida State just came from behind to beat Miami in 5 sets in Miami. That's a huge win for Florida State. That's a huge win for UCF because that's their marquee win is Florida out of the conference. You mentioned the record. Jeff mentions the record. The West Virginia is a must win. West Virginia is like a 190 something RPI. You cannot lose that game.
187.
180. Let's just win that, please. Then you got Kansas State, who's like in the 90 something.
95.
I still think if you can get to 7-0, and Bryson, we talked about this. If they can get to 7-0 before that gauntlet, here's the beauty again about being in the Big 12. In my opinion, if they're 7-0, all UCF has to do, go 3-8, 4-7. They're in the NCAA tournament.
Tread water, basically.
Yeah.
Right now, UCF is technically leading the Big 12 conference standings right now because both they and Texas are unbeaten in conference play.
Too early for that to mean anything.
Let's not give Texas bulletin board material, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but seriously, this is the beauty of being in a league like the Big 12. Like the American, there is no room for error. None.
Yeah.
Like
you're right.
Maybe one loss. You can go, and I'm serious about it. If you look at the slate, they can go 3-8, and I'm not saying they want to do this. I'm just saying to get to the NCAA tournament, if they go 3-8 or 4-7, with the wins they have against Florida State and maybe Mississippi State, we'll see how they do. They're in the field. They're in the field. That's it. That's the beauty, the advantage of being in the league of Big 12. And that's the thing. They're going to play this gauntlet of a schedule, but really what you're looking at, for example, you host TCU back-to-back at home. 34. Split. Let's try to get a split.
Yep.
You got Houston, who's your rival. I think that's a legit rivalry. I believe the last 4 meetings they've played, 3 of the 4 have gone 5 sets. Split with them in Houston. That's 2.
55 RPI.
Can you split Kansas, Iowa State? That's 3. Can you split with BYU? Can you split with BYU and take advantage of that home court advantage that you have?
60.
Right? You see the math equation here? This team can make the NCAA tournament, which would be huge with this young group too, because I think that's big if they make the NCAA, because now you got players like the Ava Armours and the Abby Shomers that get that experience of what it's like to be in the tournament. It's all there in front of them. If they can take care of these next 2 matches, they have put themselves in great position, I think, to get into the tournament, the NCAA tournament. I really
as an at-large.
Yeah, I do. Yep. But they got to win these 2 matches, especially West Virginia. Have to win that.
Yep, got to get through it. Wow. Well, we got a busy schedule coming up. Of course, we got football at 4:00 on Saturday. Eric, you're on the air on Saturday too, right, for men's soccer?
I will be on the call at ESPN Plus, 7:00, number 2, UCF and Georgia Southern. I'll be with Robbie Estamito and Madison Little. We'll be on the sideline. We got it's big. It's number 2 in the country, baby. So go watch the football game, watch the pigskin, follow Mr. Kyle Nash, and then flip over to soccer. Depending on how the score is, I might even give a shout out to Kyle just so he can watch the soccer match.
We also got women's soccer again Sunday at 1:00. That's big. And, of course, volleyball, 7:00 next Wednesday. And, of course, that big women's soccer game on Thursday as well to wrap up against Texas Tech to wrap up the week. Make sure you keep an eye out for Nightcap. Bryson and Nick taking care of that for us. Make sure you follow us on the division. Before we go, I just want to make a little personnel, a little bit from the transactions. I wanted to give a special shout out and a thank you. We mentioned Stat Boy Drew, Andrew Glukov, who told us that he's going to be stepping back from his obligations with us for a little bit. And we'll be having Nick Porcelli join us a little bit more, not just on this podcast, but also he'll be providing a little bit more coverage for us on the basketball side of things, as basketball's right around the corner. So again, congratulations, Nick, and huge thanks to Drew, who's been a good friend and a really, really just, I think, amazing writer and understands the pulse of UCF fans, certainly of this is going to sound weird, but like of a certain age, and I think a lot of them are within earshot of us right now on this podcast. And Drew, thanks again. Now you'll hear from Drew again many times. Like, he has absolute free reign to write about whatever it is that he wants. I'm sure we'll have him on the podcast again several times before as well. Make sure you keep an eye out for. So thank you, Drew, as well. Keep following him, Statboy Drew on Twitter.
That's right, Jeff. The shouts to Drew aren't just a knee-jerk reaction.
Right. Speaking of which, don't forget about Night Class with Kyle after the Kansas game, which we will be following on as well. And you can follow us on Twitter/X at UCF Banneret _SBN. Follow us on Instagram, Black and Gold Banneret, Threads at Black and Gold Banneret, and Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret as well. So that'll do it for us here on the Night Shift podcast, where we are available to you wherever your podcasts may come from. If you do listen to us, we appreciate you subscribing. If you have not subscribed to us, now's your chance to do it, and make sure you tell one of your UCF friends about us as well, where we are available. Don't forget also our YouTube channel, Black and Gold Banneret on YouTube. So for Eric Lopez, Kyle Nash, the student of the game, the SOTG on Twitter, Bryson Turner, it's Bryson Turner on Twitter, Nick Porcelli 2, and yours truly, I'm Jeff Sharon. This has been the Night Shift podcast. Enjoy it. Let's get a dub on Saturday and get our first Big 12 win of the Big 12 win ever in Lawrence. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you soon.